Yeah, I guess, these were puzzles around behaviours.
The mind of a serial killer is a chilling maze.
And dangerous killers in the UK. And this is how crime works.
What drives them to commit horrific acts? Discover the dark truth behind their twisted motives, and you won't believe the shocking connections uncovered. What makes a person a serial killer? The answer is as dark as it is complex. It's not just about a single traumatic event. It's a dangerous mix of factors, stretching from childhood abuse to inherent psychological issues. Many killers have a background of broken homes, often raised by down-knit mothers and absent fathers. This dynamic creates a deep, unsettling hatred that manifests in brutal violence, usually targeted at women. The childhood years of these killers are often marred by physical and sexual abuse, along with psychiatric issues within their families. This violent upbringing can plant the seeds of cold-blooded brutality. Researchers have found that many serial killers share a troubling characteristic: lack of empathy. This absence of concern for others' pain is central to their actions. Without empathy, they fail to see the humanity in their victims, treating them as objects to be controlled and disposed of. One prominent theory suggests that some individuals may be born with a predisposition for violence, their brains wired differently from the start. Studies show abnormal brain functions, particularly in the amygdala, an area controlling emotions like empathy and remorse. But is it nature or nurture? The debate continues, leaving us searching for answers in the dark recesses of the criminal mind. What drives someone to brutal, sadistic murder? Is it something ingrained in their very nature or shaped by their environment? Research suggests the origins of such violence often lie deep within childhood trauma. Many notorious serial killers, including Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer, came from homes filled with dysfunction, abuse, and neglect. The absence of a nurturing father figure and a controlling mother can create deep psychological scars, manifesting later in violent tendencies. Often, these killers experience extreme sexual or physical abuse during childhood, leaving them emotionally scared. These early life experiences become a breeding ground for rage and a twisted need for power and control. As they grow, they begin to see violence as a means to assert dominance, a way to feel in control when they were once powerless. What's even more chilling is that some of these killers may have been born with a biological predisposition for violence. Studies in neurocriminology reveal brain abnormalities, particularly in areas like the prefrontal cortex, which controls behavior regulation. This could explain their complete lack of remorse, acting on impulses without any guilt or shame. Is a serial killer born or made? The age-old question that criminologists have grappled with for over 250 years. While some argue that genetics and biology play a significant role, others believe that the environment and early experiences are the true driving forces behind violent behavior. A broken home, sexual abuse, and neglect are common traits among many infamous serial killers, but not all victims of such trauma turn violent. The idea that some individuals may be born with an inherent predisposition to violence is backed by neurocriminology. Studies have shown that certain brain structures, like the amygdala, may function differently in serial killers. This part of the brain is responsible for emotions like empathy and remorse. In serial killers, it's often found to be underdeveloped, which may explain their ability to kill without feeling guilt or emotion. However, experts also point out that the environment plays a crucial role. Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer both had troubling childhoods, filled with confusion, abuse, and abandonment. These experiences could have shaped their violent tendencies, leading to horrific acts. It seems that the truth lies somewhere in between, a combination of biology and environment. The names Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, and the Zodiac Killer have become synonymous with terror. What makes these individuals so chilling isn't just their crimes, but how they blend in with society. They were once seen as ordinary. Ted Bundy even worked as a volunteer for a suicide prevention hotline and managed a Republican campaign office. Yet, beneath their charming facades, They were cold-blooded killers, driven by an insatiable thirst for violence. Jeffrey Dahmer, known as the Milwaukee Cannibal, not only murdered but cannibalized his victims, keeping body parts as trophies. His killing spree lasted from 1978 to 1991 and shocked the world with its brutality. Ted Bundy, responsible for over 30 murders, charmed his victims before abducting, torturing, and killing them. He even compared his killings to stamp collecting. Such was the satisfaction he found in murder. These killers shared a disturbing lack of remorse. They viewed their victims as mere objects, satisfying their need for power and control. What's even more unsettling is how they continued their crimes for years, evading capture, until their actions eventually led to their downfall. Their stories continue to haunt the public consciousness, symbolizing the terrifying reality that some monsters walk among us, hiding in plain sight. In the 1970s, the FBI revolutionized the hunt for serial killers with the introduction of psychological profiling. Experts like Patrick Meany and Howard Teeton pioneered the use of psychological analysis to identify patterns in criminal behavior, providing law enforcement with invaluable tools to catch serial killers. Before this, criminologists struggled to understand the twisted minds of these killers, but profiling gave them a framework to recognize common traits and behaviors. Profiling helped the FBI understand that serial killers often followed a predictable pattern, each crime serving to fulfill a twisted fantasy. They would often begin by selecting victims based on their personal preferences, then move to the wooing phase, where they built trust with the victim. Finally, in the capture phase, the killer would exert complete control, taking the life of their victim to satisfy their need for dominance. By identifying these stages and behaviors, the FBI was able to narrow down suspects and gain valuable insights into the minds of killers like Ted Bundy and the Green River Killer. Profiling not only helped solve numerous high-profile cases, but also gave law enforcement a clearer understanding of what drives these individuals to kill. What truly makes a serial killer tick? One key factor is psychopathy. Ted Bundy, one of the most notorious killers in North America, was a classic psychopath, charming, manipulative, and completely devoid of empathy. Psychopathy is a personality disorder marked by a complete lack of remorse and an ability to manipulate others for personal gain. Serial killers often use charm and intimidation to control their victims, with no concern for the pain they cause. Experts define psychopathy by three main traits: emotional absence, manipulation, and superficial charm. A psychopath doesn't feel emotions like others. They don't experience guilt, which allows them to carry out horrific acts without any internal conflict. In fact, the lack of empathy and emotional connection is what enables them to kill repeatedly without remorse. Studies have shown that psychopathy is not just a mental disorder. It's often a result of biological abnormalities in the brain. The prefrontal cortex, which regulates decision-making and emotions, is underdeveloped in many psychopaths. This allows their darker impulses to take control, making them more dangerous. Serial killers like Jeffrey Dahmer and Ted Bundy embody this chilling lack of emotion, using their manipulative skills to carry out their gruesome acts with cold efficiency. Serial killers follow a terrifying and predictable cycle. First, they experience the aura phase, where fantasies about murder grow stronger. These fantasies often include violent sexual acts, and the killer begins to visualize their ideal victim. Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer both engaged in these disturbing thoughts long before committing their first murders. The next step in the cycle is trolling, where the killer searches for the perfect victim, often driven by their fantasies. They observe their surroundings, looking for someone who matches their ideal victim type, age, appearance, or even vulnerability. Once they identify their target, they move into the wooing phase, gaining their victim's trust. This is where their charm, manipulation, and deceit come into play. When the victim is under the killer's control, they enter the capture phase. This is the moment when the killer's mask comes off, revealing their true intentions. The victim is either incapacitated or trapped, and the killer prepares for the final step: murder. The murder phase is where the killer fulfills their fantasies, often through torture, degradation, or sexual violence. After the kill, the cycle doesn't end. Many serial killers enter the totem phase, collecting trophies or body parts as reminders of their power. This cycle then repeats, with each kill reinforcing their need for control and satisfaction, driving them toward their next victim. The role of technology in the evolution of serial killing has become undeniable. While it aids law enforcement in capturing killers, it also gives murderers new tools to carry out their crimes more efficiently. Serial killers have increasingly turned to the internet, using it to find and lure victims, as seen with cases like Stephen Port in the UK. Port engaged in traditional serial killer behavior, trolling and wooing, but did so entirely online. He used dating apps to meet his victims, drugged them, and ultimately murdered them, leaving the bodies in a churchyard while calling the police himself. As technology advances, so does the criminal's ability to hide in plain sight. The internet allows serial killers to create an isolated world where they can nurture their fantasies without ever leaving their homes. They can manipulate vulnerable individuals and carry out their crimes without direct physical interaction. Despite these advancements, technology has also improved investigative techniques. DNA analysis, forensic psychology, and behavioral profiling have helped law enforcement connect the dots between multiple murders, making it more difficult for serial killers to escape justice. Ted Bundy's eventual capture, for example, came thanks to behavioral profiling, and DNA played a crucial role in catching the Green River Killer after a 20-year search. Technology may evolve, but the fight between crime and law enforcement grows more intense. Don't miss out on the next shocking story. In our upcoming video, the crime that shocked the world and remains unsolved, we uncover a mystery that still baffles investigators. Hit that subscribe button now so you never miss a spine-tingling tale that will leave you on the edge of your seat.